Hey guys, this is one of my odd duckling videos. It is not like my normal content. It is not like things I normally do. I know today is generally the beauty educational content day, but I still have to wash my heads and brushes, and I just felt the need to do something a little bit different. Yes, I will be doing a reading, but right off the bat, I want to be fully cognitively honest with you that I'm not sure exactly how this reading is going to go. In full transparency, I already started this video once and things just ran away from me, and I ended up deleting it and saying, no, I have to start this over because I'm not conveying things the way that I mean to. Today was a very difficult day. For those who follow me on Twitter, I actually temporarily deactivated my Twitter account because, excuse me, being an empath, it's very difficult when you see suffering. It's even more difficult when the suffering you see causes even the people that you care about and respect to go after, attack, and target that person when they're at their most vulnerable. If you've never been on the receiving end of having lots of people attack you at once, it is a very overwhelming and devastating experience for anyone. Right now, the world is in chaotic upheaval. And rather than a lot of people having the awareness to see when their actions and their words may be hypocritical to who they usually are or how they would normally act, I see a lot of people jumping on this bandwagon of hate. And for all intents and purposes, I am not talking about anyone specific. This is a general comment. The problem with this behavior is it really doesn't solve anything. And I know that automatically, because of the color of my skin, people are not going to want to hear what I have to say. There's nothing really I can do about that. I can't change who I am or how I look. But one thing I've always done, one thing I've never been afraid to do, is stand up and say this is wrong, even when the majority of people don't agree. And that happened today. And even those who normally have my back didn't say a word. Mainly because they themselves were acting in the way that I was calling out. And if you have not seen the video of the officer circulating on Twitter, that was the primary trigger. I've been very open and honest on my platform before about my own struggles and mental health issues, that I do have anxiety. And I have been through horrendous panic attacks and anxiety attacks. So I know from firsthand experience that when you are going through it, things aren't logical. Things don't make sense. And as much as I have loved Twitter many times, for the proclivity of people to say, hey, mental health issues are a real thing, and we should be compassionate to those who are experiencing them. Twitter, unfortunately, also has the negative effect and impact that when one person says something that isn't 100% in agreement, or if that person is working in a field that you don't like right now, especially with things that are going on between COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter movement, people aren't taking the time to say, what if this were me? How would I want to be treated if I were this person? And I'll be honest, that really broke my heart today. It really did. I deactivated my personal Twitter account because I couldn't take it. I'll reactivate it in a few days, but I needed that break away. I have spoken a lot about my own life, but I haven't even touched on many horrendous things that I've experienced in my life. Things that, by and large, I feel I want to keep to myself, because everyone deserves privacy. But being an empath isn't something that's easy, and it's not something that comes from an easy life. Being an empath comes with, and largely from, facing every horrendous atrocity or painful experience that you can experience in the world. And often experiencing them one right after another after another. Being an empath, a true empath, is something that comes from struggle. It's something that comes from facing the worst in people and rising above it, and becoming stronger and stronger and stronger over time, until you reach the point that even when you lay your heart open and bare to the world, you still have within you this warrior fighter spirit that says, when I see something wrong, I am not going to back down and not say something and just let it slide. I know this is a very large intro, but I have to vent these things, and then I will get into the reading itself. I'll put a timestamp if you want to skip over this part. I understand. And it's heartbreaking when you are somebody with the ability to see what the world could become if people would just stop being so horrible to one another. If people would stop being so self-serving, if people would stop letting money rule their mentality and corrupt their ethics, to see what would and could become if before anybody went on the attack, they said, what if this were me? It's often been said that the people who garner the most hate are the ones who need the most love. I'm not saying don't call them out on their actions, and I'm certainly not saying don't hold them accountable. But I'm saying change your approach in how you do so. I have covered this many times on my channel, and I'll link the videos in this video again. But when you go on a collected attack on somebody, all it does is either cause them to raise a wall and no longer give credence to anything you have to say, or, unfortunately, it breaks them. Everyone has within them the potential to be good or bad. Everyone within themselves has the potential to be kind or to be cruel. And when someone is going through something such as an anxiety attack, when their thoughts don't make sense and they don't see anything outside of the bitch in the back of their head, corrupting their mind, making them think things that they normally wouldn't, making them afraid of things that aren't real. It is far more important to treat those people with kindness than with cruelty. Because I want you to take a moment, and if you have seen the video of the officer, I want you to stop and take a moment and say, what if she hadn't been a cop? What if she had been a nurse? What if she had been a military veteran? What if she had been a firefighter? What if she were in any other first responder role where they see and experience the most horrifying aspects of humanity, where they witness worse things than most people even care to imagine? There is a reason why first responders, military veterans, all of these people who are called to action have a higher suicide rate than people in the general population. Because they carry with themselves every horrifying thing that they are called to help and tend to. But there were a lot of people today who didn't stop and think about that. There were a lot of people today that I saw who have been champions for mental health and awareness and didn't even take a second to stop and see that here before them was a person who was suffering. She happened to work a job that isn't very popular right now. And I want you to try to remember that just a month ago, she was one of many in a position who were being acclaimed and called heroes and thanked for everything that they're doing. Because while so many sat at home, they continued to put their life and safety on the line to help people who needed it, especially through a pandemic. Fast forward a month later, men within her own field, women within her own field, have very publicly murdered people in the Black community and other people and people of color. And people like her have gone from being thanked and hailed as a hero to demonized. Because we no longer see the cops as human beings. We see them as a portrayal of a broken system built to oppress and suppress and obliterate people in minority groups. And with everything that she must be dealing with and witnessing right now, her mind decided to twist having to wait for an Egg McMuffin into a what if today's my day to die. Because when you are having an anxiety attack, that's how it feels. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not logical. When you are in the midst of an anxiety attack, there is no such thing as logic. And unless you have experienced something that horrifying before, you can't even begin to fathom the lengths to which your mind will go to make you feel like that's it, your life is over. I was glad to see a few people speaking up on her behalf today. But I was even more heartbroken to see those that I normally have looked upon with favor. People who I've considered to be empathetic and compassionate people jump on this bandwagon to attack her. without taking a moment to see that this was a mental health issue, not a breakfast one. And to see so many just go on the attack because she was an officer of some kind. I don't know if she was a cop or if she's a cop for another department or group than the one that was being reported to. But now I want you to take a moment and think that with all this bandwagoning, in a moment of weakness where this woman was trying to vent something that was destroying her mind, in a moment where speaking clearly and being clear about your thought process is impossible. It's absolutely impossible. To see so many people call for the end of her career. So many people calling her pathetic. And oh, poor baby, you're feeling this way. Imagine how we feel. Pain is pain. Suffering is suffering, and so many people forget that no matter what walk of life you happen to travel down, even if somebody has not walked in your shoes, they have absolutely 100% experienced pain and loss. What if she had been a nurse or a firefighter? I don't know if I said that already, but please try for a moment. Put her in another job or another field. And ask yourself, would you be attacking her this way if she was anything other than a cop? And especially one who's white and female. Because the ugly way that she was attacked today, I only ever see directed at women. Men may get attacked from time to time, but no one ever questions their ability to do their job when they show a moment of weakness. They question it if they are doing something horrendously wrong, or racist, or violent. Police brutality needs to end. But people only have ever gotten truly vicious when it happens to be a woman. And she happened to be white. So she got labeled a Karen. And she happened to be a cop. Or an officer. And so she was demonized. And I'm not speaking up on her behalf because she's white. I'm not speaking up on her behalf because she's a cop. I'm speaking up on her behalf because she is a human being in a position where mental health is a hugely difficult thing to hold on to because of what they experience and what they witness on a daily basis. And I am speaking up on her behalf because so many people who generally help one another turned into absolute monsters today. But imagine how tired we feel. Everyone is tired. Everyone's exhausted, and yes, there are people in this world who have suffered more than others. But when it comes to suffering, even if it varies in intensity, even if it varies in duration, and even if it varies in the reasons why it's happening, it's the same. So I'm calling on anyone who's watching this video that if you are one of the people who went on the attack instead of taking a moment to empathize and act with kindness, please take a moment to self-reflect on your actions today. Take a moment and say, what if it had been me? Take a moment and say, what if it had been your best friend, or your mother, or your sibling, your aunt, because I'm not saying this to browbeat anyone. I'm saying this to bring awareness to something that was absolutely heartbreaking to witness today. Especially where it could have been easily prevented. And especially where humanity as a collective whole can do and be so much better than everything I have been witnessing lately, but especially what I witnessed today. And like her moment with the Egg McMuffin, today was just the straw that broke the camel's back. This conversation that I'm having right now has been building for a very long time. It will not be the only one of its kind, and it is not the first nor the last of these tough conversations that I'm going to have. But it's one that's important and needed to be addressed and said. I have always had the back of the oppressed over the oppressor. And I have always called out cops when they have been siding with the wrong people or doing the wrong thing. But not every cop is bad, and not every instance is cut and dry. And not every situation as a matter of fact, most situations will never be remedied by constantly attacking and harassing and bullying someone, especially when they're going through a difficult time. I'm not saying to forgive people who may have done, said horrible things to hurt yourself or others. But it's the way you communicate that pain and that offense that will make the difference between whether somebody changes or whether somebody loses their life or somebody just shuts the door. How people collectively communicate with one another needs to change. If we want this world to become a better place and a place of respect and kindness and helping each other. If we want this to become a better world, it starts with us and with every choice that we make. There are people that I don't care for, but the last thing you're ever going to see me do is constantly or even remotely go on the attack of the people that I don't care for. Not everybody is going to get along, and not everybody is going to resonate with everyone. And that's okay, you don't have to. Block, move along, continue down the road. But it doesn't have to come at the expense of people's lives and their livelihoods. And it doesn't have to come at the expense of your soul and who you are as a person. So tonight, like always, I call on everyone, please. Do better. Work to be better. It's an ever-growing process, and it takes a long time. But it's worth it. And wouldn't you rather go from stop being tired? Wouldn't you rather start feeling and being uplifted by uplifting others and helping when you see people in need of help? Because I promise you, you and the world at large will be so much better for it in the long run. I'm sorry I've sat here for almost 35 minutes now just talking away, and I haven't gotten into anything, and I think right now for tonight I'm going to cut things here. I know I said I was going to do a reading, but I just don't feel like it would be an appropriate thing to do right now. I think it's appropriate and more important to let the words that I've said sit and ruminate. I will re-record the reading that I had started to do. I left the cards. I picked them up in the order that I laid them down so that when I go to redo it, it will be the same as it was when I started it. When you are someone who comes from a different worldview, from seeing the world as a community rather than a bunch of individuals who don't get along, seeing the way the world could be versus how it is. Sometimes you just have to sit for a while and talk about it. Because even if I only reach one person, it's one person more than there was before. So I hope the words that I've said and the things that I've conveyed may have given at the very least a different view than what some of you may be having. Something to think about, something to focus on and take a moment to self-reflect. Because at the end of the day, if I'm to do my job, the job that I was given long before I was even born, a job to help people, to bring them together, and to help affect change. Then it has to start with the hard talks and the hard discussions. And then talking about things that make everybody feel uncomfortable. So from my broken heart, from this day, all I ask is that you take a moment to really look within. Turn that mirror back on yourself and say, how can I do and be better than what I have been being so far? Because I know my view won't necessarily be the popular one, and I know it won't necessarily be the thing that anybody even really wants to hear. But it's the message that I was meant to give. A perspective that maybe you haven't seen before or thought of before. And it's one that only comes from looking within, looking at the ugliest parts of your soul, and saying, how can I change? So with that, I wish you good night. And I hope you tune in tomorrow for the reading that I was planning on doing tonight. One addressing how the human consciousness is shifting during this time. So anyway, take care, and I'm sending you love. I'm sending you peace. And good night.